Hello and welcome to another special Pocket Pedagogy episode, Pocket Pedagogy Special as we're calling it. This is not a full episode of the show. I'm still going to be doing DuckTales 2 to finish out Duck Month, but I figured today is, of course, would have been the 123rd birthday of Carl Barks, the guy who basically made Donald Duck what he is. You've been watching the previous episodes, we talked a lot about that. And I thought it'd be fun to take a look at a couple Game Boy games, and Game Boy Advance, I should say, that feature Donald Duck in some meaningful way, but weren't really, I think, these are not bad games. They don't really merit a full episode. So I want to spend a little bit of time with it in honor of the good duck artist's birthday, and we're going to start with Magical Tetris Challenge. This is a 2000 release. It was 1999 in Japan, 2000 in North America. By Capcom for the Game Boy Color. And you'll see pretty quickly why I think this is not really one that merits a full episode, because quite frankly, it's Tetris. Like, there's nothing else to it. The part that's it's got some different modes, like for instance, you got standard Tetris, up-down Tetris, magical Tetris. I haven't unlocked everything on this. You got multiplayer, you got that kind of thing. But quest mode is probably the most interesting bit. You actually get to pick your character. Of course, we're going to pick Donald. And you can pick your difficulty level. We're going to say on normal. And you are essentially going around town trying to compete in some kind of Tetris carnival. This is all a flimsy pretext to play Tetris against Disney characters. And maybe that's not a terrible thing, per se. It's just kind of, there's not much to it, if we're being honest. And my cat has now joined me for this, so if you hear some meowing, that's going to be what that is. It's not me. But anyway, so a lot of text, honestly, for something that frankly doesn't need a ton of explanation. We're just going around, we're playing Tetris with some Disney characters. But you get a little cute Donald Duck sprite, walk around an overworld map. You can kind of search. Here's a garbage can. You can knock on the garbage can, and I'm going to talk to this garbage can man, and he's got nothing for me, so I'm assuming that's going to be important later. You walk around. Let's go into this house. You knock on the door. You're very polite. There's a memo. I'm so proud of my Tetris game this year. Please challenge me if you see me in town. Clarabelle Cow wants that Tetris smoke, so let's see if we can find Clarabelle Cow. Or literally anybody. Oh, here's Daisy. So we're going to say hi to Daisy. And we're going to play Magical Tetris. And so we're going to get her coin, number 2. That does matter. And so now I'm playing Tetris, both with a cat trying to get my attention, and also being recorded for the internet. So this is going to be miserable. And the thing about Tetris, and I know a lot of you are probably doing right now, is that, quite frankly, you're probably yelling at me, saying, why didn't you put the block in this space, or something like that. And the answer is, because I didn't, is why. Like, there's no real rhyme or reason to any of it. But anyway, you got the cute little animation down there. There's Donald. He is cheering us on. Well, I guess he's technically playing, so he's cheering himself on. As you can see, it's a little squirrely. You can really move the blocks back and forth fast, which is maybe not always the best thing about for a Tetris game. I'm not getting a lot to work with here, and this is what kind of surprised me when I play this, is that this is, for a Disney Tetris game, it's not super easy. So Capcom made this. Obviously, if you know anything about video games and video game history, the rights to Tetris are fairly complicated. But pretty much anybody can license Tetris at this point. And so at some point in the late 90s, Capcom did exactly that. This, to my knowledge, would have been one of the only Capcom Tetris games. As you can see, it's not easy to play Tetris at the same time you're talking about it. So we're gonna go ahead and see if we can try this again. I do like the little world map. I like the visuals here. This is not a bad game. It really isn't. And there are certainly bad Disney games on the Game Boy Color. Trust me, I could give you a list. But this one is not one of them. It's just that there's not much to it. The quest mode is the most interesting part of this, I think, and it's really, there's not much more to it than just going around and doing exactly what I'm doing right now. So, this is actually not a port. Port's the wrong word, but this is the handheld version of a console game that also got released around the same time. And this was released on the Nintendo 64. Obviously, it will look a little bit better, have some more stuff like that. There was also a PlayStation version, but, neither of those are portable, so we're talking about the Game Boy Color one today. And honestly, there's not a lot to say about it, so I'm probably not going to play this for too much longer. But, it's cute, and that's the thing. Like, if you could do a lot worse for a portable Tetris. A fun thing that, it's always weird when you play a version of Tetris that doesn't have that quick drop function when you push up. To me, I think that should just be mandatory, but, like, going back and playing the original Tetris on Game Boy, which I had to do recently for one of the videos, you notice very quickly how much that becomes a thing that you just, it's like reflex, and when you can't do it, it's, suboptimal, let's say. And we are not getting... And so the other thing that I to my knowledge, I don't know if there's a way to actually swap out your blocks, and that is a problem for me at the moment. That's another thing that I think needs to be mandatory in any given version of Tetris, is for the standard mode. You can turn it off if you want, but if I'm playing Tetris, I want to be able to, swap my block out and get a different one that's better for the particular situation I'm in. But now we're kind of getting somewhere here. And I believe you just keep playing until that meter fills up. Or maybe not. There we go. I win. Hooray. Donald wins. He's playing himself. And again, there's a ton of personality in this game. The animations are pretty good. But yeah, you're collecting each of the coins. But you have to get the ones that are specific to the card you have. And Daisy has coin number 2. You can actually, I think, you should be able to check your card, but it doesn't let you, I guess. So I can pick up the phone here. The number you have dialed is now no longer in service. Great. Great. So I'm not sure why that's even there. Let's talk to Goofy. Let's see what he's up to. So this is up-down Tetris. I'm not quite sure what the difference is here. So, up-down Tetris is, so this game does have, like, a magical mode where you have special Tetris pieces and things like that. I don't think we've seen that yet in this playthrough. There we go. And, again, this is pretty standard Tetris. Like, you can probably get deeper into this game and find some different weird stuff. We're probably not going to do that. I'm just letting you know this exists. It is an interesting thing to have, and certainly a part of. And it's also weird because, again, as I've mentioned, we're going to find out later on with the DuckTales 2 video that'll be coming out probably in the next few days. Certainly, hopefully before the end of March. Capcom has a really good history with Disney video games. You can look at, obviously, the Disney Afternoon stuff they did, DuckTales, Rescue Rangers, Darkwing Duck. They also did Tailspin, but I don't consider that a good game. But this is... They also have, like, the Magical Quest games on the Super Nintendo. And those also got re-released on the Game Boy Advance, and those are pretty good versions of those games, too. They're also... I was actually going to do the third Magical Quest game for this series, and I might yet. I just haven't, because getting a proper, real copy of that game is prohibitively expensive. You're looking at paying about this... I have yet to find a copy of that game, and we're not even talking about, like, with the original box or anything. I have yet to find a copy of that game under $60. And that doesn't... That's, obviously... a pretty significant amount for a Game Boy Advance game in 2024. And really, quite honestly, there we go, Tetris, woo! I do like the little, the grid on the back. That does kind of give you an idea of where the blocks are going to fall, and if you have trouble with kind of your spatial perception sometimes, which I do, it's nice to have. So I can kind of say, all right, I can tell where this is going to go, and I can kind of line up visually, so when I do the Tetris drop there, I feel pretty confident that it's going to go where I want it to go. But yeah, so Capcom made a bunch of really great Disney games. And this is not really one of them, but it's also extremely not bad. It's, like I said, it's fine. There is nothing wrong with this game. It's just, it's literally just a Tetris game. This version, at least, does not have a lot of the accoutrements. I haven't played the N64 version. I'm guessing that it has maybe a little bit more of the Disney flair you'd expect. But they kept this pretty simple, and frankly, you know, any version of Tetris on a Game Boy is probably at least worth your time. They did make that, and this is another one I was going to do at one point for Pocket Pedagogy, but I just didn't find it interesting enough. They did try to do Tetris 2. And that one was interesting because you had like bomb pieces and different colored pieces and that kind of thing. And it added a bunch of new material to the game that frankly probably never needed to be there. And there's just something kind of, the audacity of trying to call it Tetris 2 was surprising to me. So let's see if we got the coin here. Which coin should I take? I'm going to take 5. So I've got that coin. But yeah, just the audacity of calling this Tetris 2 was wild. So I don't recommend tracking down Tetris 2. I will tell you that if you want another Nintendo Tetris game, the Tetris DS that came out for, well, the Nintendo DS, so you can see your ranking. I'm ahead of Mickey. That's good. Donald's in the lead. The Tetris DS that came out for the Nintendo DS is an absolutely phenomenal Tetris game. A lot of really cool extra modes and things like that, and also just a ton of Nintendo fan service. It's really super fun. Also incredibly expensive on the aftermarket. I had a copy of it. I traded or sold it. I regret doing that because replacing that very good copy of Tetris on Tetris DS is pretty expensive now. Oh, this guy looks like a... I don't know if I trust this man. You look at this guy... I don't think he's up to something, but he wants to play Towering Tetris. We're going to clear lines so we clear the keyhole mark. This seems pretty straightforward. Okay, so we're going to just try to clear... We're going to clear lines and see what happens. So we're starting off here right with junk blocks, which is a problem, and it wouldn't be a problem if I could actually drop the blocks where I need to go. So here we go. This is one of the magical pieces, and it did nothing. So I'm not sure what it's supposed to do here. There we go, big Tetris. So yeah, we're gonna just keep clearing blocks and see what happens. We got a timer filling up on the side there. I believe that will, what will that do for us? Nothing at the moment. Again, they're not giving me a ton to work with here, but I'm guessing that I need to clear out those other blocks specifically. As you can see, Donald's getting a little bit panicky down there. I have not played with any of the other characters, but I do like like I said, they put a lot of personality into those side animations. So I think it's pretty cool that they're there. Yep. And let's see here. Can we do something here? Yep. And there's that. So this is, yeah, this is trickier than it looks, is for sure. And I have just completely... So we lost to the shady Wolfman. I don't know. He can't be defeated. That's probably true. Now I do want to say, as I'm playing this, we're not going to play this for too much longer. Probably the best Capcom puzzle game that ever got made was Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, which is uses the sprites from the Super Gem Fighter, Super Pocket Fighter series, where it's all the kind of like chibi squat versions of the Street Fighter and Darkstalkers characters. That one's interesting because you got giant blocks or gems that you're turning into giant blocks, and you're trying to blow them up with bombs of the same color, and you try to set up these big combos, and then you have like a fun Street Fighter fight going in the background. These a lot of like remix versions of Street Fighter Alpha music and Darkstalkers music. That one's really easy to come by. I believe there is a Game Boy Advance version of it. If you want to do the portable thing, and that'd be a fun episode to do. But it's also readily available. They've re-released it multiple times. It is on the Capcom Fighting Collection. I am fairly certain it is also on the Capcom Arcade Collection, where it's kind of the a la carte, you buy the games as you want them deal. So I definitely recommend, if you are interested in puzzle games made by Capcom, check that out. This one has never been re-released, nor has its console counterpart, for a simple reason that Capcom no longer has the Disney license, other than, maybe occasionally they make a one-off deal to re-release a game. They did the Disney Afternoon Collection a few years back, but Capcom themselves has largely gotten out of really the licensed game business in general, and it's understandable. They're not that big of a company, even though they have some fairly big franchises like Resident Evil and Monster Hunter. But they themselves are not a terribly big company. So, their resources really, it makes more sense you spend money on games that you yourselves own the rights to. Let's talk to Minnie here. So we got another coin from Clarabelle Cow, and it was pretty simple. Let's play Minnie. Hi, Donald. You want to play Up Down Tetris? Sure, let's play Up Down Tetris. So again, and this is by far the most interesting thing, and it's not a super complex, but yeah, like I said, this was not really going to merit a full episode of Pocket Pedagogy, but I thought it was at least interesting to celebrate the work and times of Carl Barks. And speaking of, I also want to recommend, if you are interested in reading more Carl Barks material, Fantagraphics has just fantastic reproductions and collections of his work. I was lucky enough to find one at a discount store that covers Lost in the Andes. You saw some of the scans from that one, from that volume that I did in the Going Quackers episode. Really, really tremendous comics. Just a very, very talented artist, very, very talented writer. And, the jokes, there are parts that have not aged super well. There are some depictions and stereotypes and things like that I think Barks was probably a lot more progressive than a lot of creators of his time, but he was still trafficking in a lot of that same kind of stuff. And, you got to read them as products of their time for sure. But, with that in mind, they are frequently extremely funny. The Lost in the Andes in particular has just incredible comedic structure and gags, and you can really see his animation chops coming into play there. So definitely check. I think it's one of the nephews. Let's see which nephew this is, because he's not, okay, this is going to be Huey. He made Signal Tetris. Let's try out Signal Tetris. The game is won when the colors of your bottom signal match the colors in the sample. So you do have some kind of interesting variations on Tetris. And I don't exactly know how to do this one, but I guess we're going to, So I guess I have to match all of these colors together. This is not really what I am looking for out of a Tetris. It's interesting. Yeah, I wonder, they probably could get some mileage out of re-releasing something like this on mobile. There are some Disney puzzle games available on mobile. The Disney Tsum Tsum game is pretty good. But they're all kind of like a lot of games, it's riddled that sort of microtransaction. We want you to spend a lot of money to get little, virtual cute Disney characters, and that's again, they're going to do what they're going to do. But we don't see as many of this kind of puzzle game being made. Certainly there's stuff coming out on Steam. There's always stuff coming out on Steam. But from big AAA studios, it's pretty rare. I mean, we haven't really had like a proper new Tetris game in a while. Then again, there's not really much you can add to Tetris at this point. The Tetris story is actually really wild, and again, I don't really have time to get into it, but I know they just put up that film with Taron Egerton, and that one takes some liberties with the story, but my understanding is that it's got the broad strokes pretty much right. It's just that they really dramatize some things. But then again, the story is actually fairly dramatic. There's a lot of kind of like clandestine meetings and like companies sneaking around behind the Iron Curtain and things like that. David Sheff writes a really good history of it in his book Game Over, which is, of course, a history of Nintendo. But yeah, Nintendo had the rights, but my understanding is they went and got the rights from the Russian government, which owned Tetris at the time, whereas other companies like Atari tried to make deals with Alexei Bajitnov, the creator of Tetris, on his own. So, you know, it's a fascinating story and really just kind of a good example of, like, Cold War politics and commerce and how the two sort of intertwined. And then, of course, Tetris became the killer app for the Game Boy. It is really why the Game Boy was a major success. And, you know, pretty much anybody who had a Game Boy had a copy of Tetris. That was just a thing. Like, if they almost, like, they packed it in, actually, when the Game Boy came out. So, that just became a thing. Like, you had Tetris. And then you maybe bought some other games, but for most people, like, Tetris was the main thing they got their Game Boy for. So obviously there were some other games that tried to kind of like follow up on that. And this will probably be the last bit we play because, frankly, I mean, I don't know how exciting this is. And I do have one other game I want to get to that is, I think, a little bit more visually interesting at least. But yeah, this is... It's Tetris. I don't know. I don't love this. I'm not clear on what exactly Huey wants me to do here. I know I need to match the colors on the bottom, but I don't know how I'm supposed to do that. I thought if I match the Tetris pieces up with the blocks I have to change, that would work, but that doesn't make any sense. So, and now the blocks are dropping faster, so I have less time to figure it out. Yeah, so I might end up calling it here in just a minute because this is getting a little silly. But let's see if I can't figure something out. Okay, basically I've completely just botched it. And again, I guarantee people are getting mad at me watching me do this. And I tried finding some more information on this game, but, you know, one of the things that's kind of challenging is there isn't always a ton of records on this stuff. You know, this was not a game that, you know, this is not like a marquee game for Capcom. This is something they got the license. They probably knocked this out pretty quick to make a fiscal year. And, you know, they got what money they could out of it, but I think it's pretty telling there was not a sequel to this game. They didn't really pursue trying to do another one. I think this is really meant to be a one-off. There wasn't really a lot of... So there's not, like, really interesting stories to tell, per se, other than just like, hey, here's this neat little artifact that Capcom came up with, and this, I believe, would have been one of the final games they made for Disney, or with Disney. And so, yeah, like, you know, if you are a dork of a certain age, those Capcom Disney games were special. And, you know, we still have arguments to this day about things like, you know, which version of Aladdin was better. Was it the Genesis version? Was it the Super NES version that Capcom made? I am of the mind that the Genesis one is more interesting because it is more visually appealing. The Capcom one is fine. It plays well in Super NES. I believe Shinji Mikami, who would go on to make Resident Evil, was the director of that game, or certainly worked on it. So it's interesting from that sort of historical perspective. But yeah, I'm a Genesis Aladdin guy, and I'm probably going to get about half the people watching this are going to be like, yeah, man, Genesis Aladdin for life! The other half are going to be like, you're dead to me. And I understand both reactions. It's just, I had a Genesis when that game came out. It was a Genesis game to me. I liked the animation. It was really unlike anything we'd ever seen before. So, yeah, Genesis Aladdin, that's my game. But I have played the SNES one, and it's fine. It's good. I think Capcom has made better Disney games, though. I really stand by that. And so, you know, to me, I would rather take something that's kind of like trying to be visually ambitious over just, you know, being a really fairly stock platformer from a company that's frankly done better. So, you know, send your hate mail, you know, just leave comments. You know, honestly, controversy creates ratings. So that's me. I'm trying to really just grease the wheels of, you know, the online algorithm and rage bait. Which, again, I'm doing a Tetris video, I'm playing it poorly, and I'm talking about how the Genesis Aladdin is better than the Super Nintendo Aladdin, so I expect lots and lots and lots of angry replies. I'm probably going to call it here. I don't know what they want me to do. So, Huey, you are my least favorite nephew of the three. specifically for this. You're fine otherwise. This is bad. So that is Disney Magical Tetris Challenge on the Game Boy Color. And let's take a look at a bit of a different, weirder game. Well, you'll see. So this is the second game I wanted to talk about in this Pocket Pedagogy special, and I got to give you a little bit of background on this. So for a while, Konami, the Castlevania and Metal Gear people, at least they used to be, had the license to make sports games with ESPN, which was, of course, then, and I believe at that point, was actually a subsidiary of Disney. They lost the rights to that and decided they still wanted to be in the sports business, so they leveraged one of their other partnerships and, made the most logical sense was to make a series of Disney sports games. It's not completely nuts. Disney definitely had a history with sports, obviously with their partnership. They owned ESPN, but also, the Disney characters would often be shown playing sports. Goofy, in particular, was frequently in his cartoons playing sports. So it's not the biggest logical leap. This one is strange, though. So the Konami-Disney partnership was pretty short-lived. It didn't last very long. But they got some interesting games out of it. And we'll talk some more about the Disney sports in a second. But I do have to just kind of throw out there that before this game came out, one of the biggest kind of products of this partnership was a Dance Dance Revolution game with Disney music. Now, I'm not going to even bother trying to splice any of that in because Disney is very, 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 very litigious. And anything that uses their music would probably get flagged immediately by the YouTube algorithm for copyright violation. But I do recommend, if nothing else, checking out the soundtrack to the Disney Dance Dance Revolution game because it is wild. There's some pretty solid stuff on there if you like the Disney music. They also, supposedly this is like one of the rarest Dance Dance Revolution games was this Disney one. And it did get re-released a couple times. They put out a version of it that was like just sort of a plug-and-play TV game that I think they sold at Disney resorts or Disney parks. And that's probably the one that's easiest to get. I think I looked it up on eBay a while back, and it's not too expensive, whereas trying to find the console release of the original one is probably pretty pricey at this point. But Disney Sports, so they did a whole Disney Sports series. This consisted of pretty much any sport you can imagine. So the first one that came out was the soccer game, and these were multi-platform releases. Obviously, we're playing the Game Boy Advance version of Disney Sports Soccer right now, but they also put out a GameCube version, I think pretty much all of these. So there's Disney Sports Soccer, football, skateboarding, basketball, snowboarding, and motocross, and some of these are actually super rare. So, for instance, if you want to play Disney Sports Basketball, which I think is the rarest one of the lot, and you want to get a copy of it on console, you are looking at a fairly significant investment. So, I'm actually doing a live eBay search as I talk right now. So that's why I'm kind of stalling a little bit while I try to find the thing that I'm looking for. Okay, sold items. There we go. So a complete in box copy of Disney Sports Basketball on the Nintendo GameCube sold for over $1,000. That's with the manual, the case, the disc, everything. Just the disc alone can go for like $150. Other ones, the game in the case without a manual is like $550. This is a very rare game. Now, is it a great basketball game? Probably not. I have played the GameCube version of the Disney Sports Football, the American football, for those of you who are going to be pedantic about it. And it's pretty good. It's actually a really solid kind of like introduction to football. It's very sort of arcadey, NFL blitzy. But what I like about it, and what I kind of wish other games would consider, is that it actually does show you what all the different plays do. So that's kind of the thing with this series, is that they're really aimed at being sports games for a younger audience. I played a bit of the Game Boy Advance version of the American football as well. Have not found a physical copy of it. It's actually quite good. I did mention it in the Play Action Football video. I did find a copy of the soccer game, which I don't think is as good, but it's interesting. And frankly, these are better games than you'd expect them to be. So I'm going to just play a quick exhibition round with Donald's team, the Sea Ducks, which I think is cute. Each player, each character has their own team. So Mickey's got the Superstars. We have Minnie's the Charmers. Daisy's got the Bells. Goofy's got the Space Nuts. I think this is Pete with the Steamrollers. So we're going to just go ahead and we'll just do the eternal rivalry, Mickey and Donald. Though I think Mickey and Donald kind of get along better than say, like Bugs and Daffy would. There's also some things you get, like some special abilities and things like that. You can activate them in the midst of the round. So you pick your stadium. Well, I guess we'll do the Great Sun Stadium. Do level 2. We'll just do 3-minute halves or whatever it is they do in soccer. Look, I'm not a big soccer fan, to be completely honest. But I do appreciate a good soccer game. Mario Strikers, the first 2 Mario Strikers games are fantastic. I've enjoyed some FIFA now and then. I think that this is, I would be curious to play the console version of this. This game actually, I like how simplified it is. So you've obviously got the Game Boy Advance. You're looking at 2 face buttons and 2 shoulder buttons, and they basically you've got high kick and low kick on. I think like high kick is the A button, low kick is the B button, or something like that. And you've also got when you are on offense, you can use those buttons to pass. I think it's you can also use those buttons to tackle. This is so there you go. I just tackled that guy. So so what's interesting is that this has got to be to save space with sprites on the cartridge. Is that your team? And of course, you have your turbo button, which is pretty important. Your team is not unique Disney characters. You have your kind of captain that's one of the main kind of known Disney characters, like Donald or Mickey or Goofy. And then all of your other players are just generic cartoon animals. And that is obviously to save, I'm guessing budgetary costs. They have to render. I just got scored on. They didn't have to render or make sprites for every single Disney character. Like Horace Horse Collar is not going to be in there. Plus especially in these kind of, you got the replay, you can control the replay too. But in a cartridge based game, space is at a premium, and having just generic sprites that you can replicate for multiple players on the field does free up space and the memory as well. So, you don't have to load as much stuff into RAM as where if you had like individual characters, you have to load their animations, their sprites, all that stuff in. Whereas, I can just load 2 of these giant chickens in, and now I've got a team, and I can also basically just manage. There we go. I got a goal. Donald scored a goal. The console versions of these are actually pretty fun. Again, I've only really played the American football one, but they have a bunch of really cool little touches that you can tell they put some thought into. Huey, Dewey, and Louie are the linesmen. They that decide like what if you made first down or not. Scrooge McDuck is the referee who flips the coin, and he kind of like holds it really close to his chest so you can't get it. Really cute stuff like that. And again, like these are charming games. They are fun little things. Again, are any of them the best possible sports game you could get? No. These are not games that are going to really satisfy people who want serious sim-like sports. But I would say if you're trying to be a serious sports sim player and you're playing a game with Mickey Mouse in it, I don't think... that's kind of on you. You're asking for you're essentially asking a hammer to be a block of cheese or something like that. It is just not designed for that. And that being said, like you can still see they don't take it easy on you. And again, I think this is partially just because maybe I can't quite grok the soccer of it all as well as I can the American football one. But again, you'll notice that both of them do have, you probably saw the little clip if you watched the play action football game. They both play from this sort of like side view, kind of quasi, not really isometric, but not straight on side scrolling either. Where you're seeing kind of the Game Boy Advance's ability to do some, really simple rudimentary 3D, really kind of more akin to the sort of Mode 7 faux 3D effect you'd see on the Super NES. And they really like playing this close to the line there. I can't quite get the ball without knocking it out of bounds. I'm not even going to touch that. Oh, okay. So he gets to go touch it without going out of bounds. Oh, come on! So I think this is just a 3-minute game I'm playing. They must have adjusted the game clock to just be done in 3 minutes, which is nice. This is a portable game. I don't necessarily want to have to spend like a full, though I'm sure you could get something a lot closer to a full regulation game of soccer. I couldn't tell you who the goalkeeper is supposed to be. I mean, like, we got some cats that are kind of on Mickey's team. We got some big roosters. There's probably some precedent in Disney cartoons somewhere for these characters, and Mickey's showboating. But yeah, the Game Boy Advance versions of these games do kind of lose some of the animation and kind of the fidelity. Obviously, like, this doesn't look bad when it's on like the portable screen. You can kind of tell though that it blown up. And this is a problem honestly with, and I've talked about this before on Pocket Pedagogy. The Game Boy Advance, they love doing these sort of like pre-rendered looking sprites, sort of like Donkey Kong Country, where they would essentially render 3D models and turn them into sprites. And they love doing that. And it probably saves some money in terms of like development and that kind of thing. But it just uniformly looks bad. There's just a world of difference between the games that are actually doing hand-drawn animation that looks really good. Again, like, and those games look great blown up. They look just fine. So here's one of the abilities. So he just like electrocuted me. He's running right by. He's probably going to score on this one. Yep, there it is. So I'm not doing well, but again, this is a neat little oddity. You have a company that was, Konami's certainly no slouch in sports. They've made like, Professional Evolution Soccer and that kind of stuff before. So they're definitely known entities when it comes to the soccer game. But they're not really known for their sports, and they're not really known for making games at all right now. The company is really, they're happy to let other studios make games, but they have largely, with their existing intellectual property, they've got like a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake coming out that probably got pitched to them. And they've got a new Silent Hill game and some remakes coming out that again were probably pitched to them. But they themselves don't seem super interested in actually making games. They have a lot of intellectual property. They got the Hudson stuff, all the Turbo graphics and everything. So they'll re-release. And again, I don't mind that. If they're not gonna make the games, I'm at least happy that they're taking steps to let other people use that intellectual property to make games. Contra Operation Galuga just came out, and that's a terrific Contra game. Way Forward did that, and Way Forward is, they can really do no wrong. Way Forward is a really, really solid retro style developer, and this new Contra game they made is a hoot. It's a lot of fun. So I'm glad that they're doing that. But, Konami, not super well known for making sports games. They certainly do. And also not super well known for Disney games, and yet here we have over the span of a couple years. This did not last very long. The entire Disney sports series really was kind of came and went between 2002 and 2003. They put out a lot of games in that time. They 6 games, but they knocked them out pretty fast. These are sort of bang bang, let's get them out there real quick kind of deals. But it's fun. It's interesting. This is a little bit of a Disney curio. It's a Konami curio in video game history. I can't, again, I don't think any of these are like, you must go out and play this, but this is certainly an interesting moment in games history. I'm kind of just stalling because I've already lost this game. There's no way I'm coming back. I don't really fully understand how to shoot and score in this game very well, and that's kind of a problem with soccer games in general for me. It's that, and again, there are probably people who are watching this like, well, you're not doing this right. You really. I just need to really reiterate, I don't really care all that much. I like I said, I enjoy the games, but if you start asking me to like understand like soccer strategy and things, I'm not gonna do that. That's just not a thing I'm gonna do. Like, y'all have fun. It begs the question, like, we're gonna try to see if we can get something going here. And so I think I'm gonna try to see if I can activate one of my special abilities. I don't know if it's gonna do any good, but there we go. So this is one of mine, and I set the ball on fire and kicked it across the field to no effect. Hooray! Yeah, so yeah, like you basically have a turbo button on one shoulder, the right shoulder button. You have the special ability on the left shoulder button, and then you got your pass and shoot buttons on the face button. So that's, you know, it's pretty standard. But as you can see, I didn't win this round. You know, again, it's just a neat little thing. I don't think, again, this was really merits a full episode, but it's definitely worth talking about. And yeah, there you go. So two interesting kind of collaborations with companies that are both known for making Disney games and also respectively not known for making Disney games. But in honor of the great Carl Barks' birthday, there you go. Two sort of lesser known Game Boy games, Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance games starring Donald Duck. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this little special edition of Pocket Pedagogy.